Mr. Andal, it would be remiss of me if I did not address some dynamics that are taking place in your political organization. Now, you were a former deputy political leader of the NDC. Have you ever experienced a time in your role as deputy political leader when you did not show up for a major high profile party event? Was that ever a thing that happened under your stewardship as deputy political leader?
I do not recall if there was at any time any activity or event that I could not attend or anybody else could not attend. I think that we would bring the organization up to speed
Hmm.
on that
Hmm.
score.
Okay, and the question has to do with the absence of the deputy political leader, the current deputy political leader, your predecessor, Mr. Adrian Thomas. He's been conspicuously absent from that major party event. I just want to get your thoughts. The narrative now, the prevailing narrative is that there are still rumblings of disunity in your political organization. The fact that Mr. Thomas did not appear, and of course, to be fair, I also called Mr. Thomas because I like to get it from the horse's mouth, and he did indicate that he was on a break. So we have to also take that into consideration. But how does the party move forward with those tensions, those perceived tensions between what some are calling the old guard and the new guard in the lead up to the next general elections? The prime
Okay.
minister, who says that he has a bell in his pocket, can decide that he can call the election tomorrow, sensing those growing pains in the organization.
All right. I'll try to be as direct and as brief as possible. I think you
Yes.
answered one part of your question, the question of my good friend Adrian Pursuta Thomas. I cannot think of a more dedicated and committed team player than my good friend, brother Adrian. And he, I think, is in the best position to say why he has not been able to attend certain functions. So I will not venture into the realms of speculation about that. Regarding alleged tension in the party, I'm not aware of any tension in the party. The question about so-called old guard and new guard, that is an invention of, well, I don't want to blame the media or any
Well, it's
anybody.
not, but it's not an invention. It's a reality. You do
Yes,
have
yeah,
younger people that are being infused in the organization. How then do you
right.
define that?
What this shows is that the NDC is serious about generational change in leadership. We do not believe that any one person or one generation has a monopoly on wisdom, has a monopoly on foresight and insight. And we believe that in order for an organization to remain relevant, to grow, and to place itself to face emerging challenges, there must be a regeneration of leadership. Nobody, not Nazenberg, not Tillman Thomas, not Joseph Andall, not Claudette Joseph, none of us has any inherent right to be the leader of the party.
And there are aspects of it which are quite convoluted, quite frankly, even for a lawyer. Yeah. And but in the midst of that difficulty to sometimes interpret what exactly is intended, I think there are a few things that come out of this document. First, it suggests that from now on, if there is a change in control of the university will pay the government what is called a change of control grant. Yes, that's the first thing that comes out. Second, that change of control grant will be 3% of the value of the transaction. Third, the value of the transaction is to be determined by a formula which has as the main determinants, one, the value that is attributed to the transaction by the buyer and the seller. Now that is quite significant, because if you are buying a piece of land and you have to pay, or you're selling a piece of land and you have to pay property transfer tax, you and the buyer, if you're selling, you and the buyer can say that the property is worth, we're selling it for $150,000. but the government always reserves the right to go and do an assessment and see exactly what that land is worth. Yes? In other words, you might be selling a piece of land that is worth $500,000, but you're selling it at $150,000 because it means lower taxes for you, lower transfer taxes for you. So the government can say, you know what? We don't know that this is $150,000. We go in and check and see exactly what it is. What this agreement says is the buyer and the seller are going to determine what the value of that transaction really is. So that's one thing. Secondly, it says that the proceeds of any direct, this is another determinant, if you like, the proceeds of any direct dividends or distributions that are made in respect of transfers of income over the 24 months before that. That too is significant, because if I know that I'm planning to sell the property 2 years from now, I can decide on manipulating my payments of dividends, my payments of distributions to have a certain result. I can wait and not distribute so that my numbers will be lower, because my payout in distributions and dividends are lower. In other words, I can anticipate what I'm going to do to be able to pay less.
So clearly, it would seem to me that we are not negotiating from the point of strength that we have. Where is the study? Where is the study that indicates those contributions and quantify it? I ask about the leakages, because in addition to all of these, they have a number of exemptions, either 50% or 100% on operating costs. A government needs taxes, needs revenue, and the way it gets revenue is by taxes. We all have obligations to pay taxes. So I make no apologies for it. There is a problem here. SGU is not paying its fair share. It has now become this international company whose shares are traded internationally outside of Grenada, right? It is also benefiting from significant grants, right, intended to benefit countries like Grenada. It is located in Grenada. From climate change, other research grants, institutions of the Commonwealth. So while it is here providing opportunities, and that was the reason that it was embraced by all governments, Grenada has also offered and opened up opportunities for the SGU. So this is quite unbalanced. Now, when you talk about the scholarships, and they have opened the undergraduate school, and the Chancellor mentioned that we were paying taxes in another way. We have been paying taxes via scholarships. Have we quantified the value of the scholarships versus all the exemptions? Secondly, they also indicated that, both gentlemen indicated that, SGU has never refused a scholarship. What they did not tell you is that in the agreement, where the allocation exceeded that year, so, we gave a 2 extra than we had planned for, the agreement provided that the next year it would be balanced. We would offer less scholarships. So this is a very unequal relationship. And it would seem to me to be deliberately so. Because while the Chancellor indicated, well, it's a grant and we can't tell them how to use it, one might remember the Prime Minister indicating, well, I've just come from my constituency. Housing is a great need. What I found very significant after that observation, well, elections are coming up and we need to expand the materials. So the question is that $20 million or $30 million going to be used for electioneering?